In a digital age meant to bring us closer, Kenya's youth are finding themselves more divided than ever. Social media platforms are amplifying political extremes, misinformation, and online hostility, especially during elections. We examine how polarization is growing, who is responsible, and whether civil dialogue can still be restored. One click, one message, one costly mistake. Kenya is experiencing a surge in cybercrime with billions lost in critical systems under attack. Young people and small businesses are now the prime targets. We break down the latest threats and what you need to know to stay safe online. Fleeing war, hunger, and uncertainty, thousands of South Sudanese refugees continue to cross into Kenya. Host communities are under pressure, yet stories of compassion and survival are emerging. We explore how Kenya is coping and what the crisis means for the region's future. Sudan's brutal conflict continues to displace millions and destabilize the region. As borders strain and diplomacy falters, Kenya faces growing humanitarian and economic pressure. We analyze the deeper causes of the war and what's at stake if the fighting continues.
Live from the Global Lens TV newsroom, hello from wherever you are tuned in from. My name is Dama Muthui and welcome our viewers in Kenya and around the world. Thank you for joining us. This is the Global Lens Briefing, your weekly deep dive into stories shaping our society, region, and the world. I will be with you for the next 25 minutes. Stay tuned as we dive into the broadcast. In a world more connected than ever, social media has become our new public square, but also a battlefield of ideas and identities. We look at how online echo chambers deepen divisions among Kenya's youth and what can be done to restore civil dialogue. The Global Lens correspondent, Pauline Ochieng, has the details.
It begins with a simple scroll and soon a spiral. For millions of Kenyan youth, social media is the heartbeat of daily life. But digital experts warn it's also becoming a mirror that only reflects what we already believe. The Communications Authority of Kenya says online polarization is rising, especially during elections or major social debates. But amid the noise, some influencers are choosing unity over division. Experts agree that awareness, digital literacy, and real-world dialogue are key to bridging divides.
Information is power, but only when it's true. The responsibility to verify is no longer just for journalists. It's for every user online. Pauline Ochieng, The Global Lens, Nairobi.
Pauline, fascinating insights there. From your interviews, do experts believe social media companies are doing enough to curb polarization?
Not quite, Dama. Most feel that regulation alone won't fix this. It has to start with users being conscious of what they share and how they engage online. Algorithms are powerful, but human behavior plays the bigger role.
Thank you, Pauline, for that insightful story where freedom of expression remains a tightrope. Now let's dive into this issue, and I'm joined by Mr. Samuel Manthi, a political analyst. Mr. Samuel, thank you for making time and welcome. To our first question, what is the main factor leading to the rise of online polarization, especially during the election period or major social debates?
What is the main factor driving online polarization? I think first of all, one of the main things to consider is the season in which Kenya is. Right now as we speak, we are having a high rate of internet penetration in the country, right? And what that means is that the bigger part of the population is having access to the internet, so to speak. And the corresponding effect of that is that everyone has an opportunity to air their opinion online, right? So I would say it's coming from a positive thing. Internet penetration, almost now everybody in Kenya, save for a certain percentage, has a smartphone. I mean, someone now going to buy their first phone, they're not going to get those ones that we used to call kabambe, now they are getting a smartphone. And what that means is that over time, we have had an increased number of internet users in the country. And so anytime there is any public or national debate, they have that access to make their comments or air their opinions online.
What actions or measures can be used to curb the increase of misinformation and hate speech from not only the citizens but also the leaders?
Well, in regards to the law of the land, I think from the legal perspective, it would be better to empower the NCIC more with stronger enforcement mechanisms, so to speak. Because as it is, NCIC doesn't have very strong enforcement mechanisms or policing powers, so to speak. And also because of the legal architecture of the very law that establishes it, because of the weakness of that, particular law that establishes it, it makes NCIC susceptible to political influence, right? So my suggestion would be, I think we can make NCIC more stronger and give it more powerful policing powers, so that if anyone is to make statements that fuel hate speech, then NCIC has the ability to come in and take action, so to speak, in its own motion. Because as it is, NCIC can only summon a witness, so to speak, right? It cannot do it suo moto or on its own motion, okay? So I think to address this, because this is something, given the cultural context of the country, using NCIC is the best shot.
How can civil dialogue be restored?
One of the mandates or the functions of NCIC is to actually create public awareness with respect to creating national cohesion and integration of, ethnic communities in the country. So I think what we can do in that regard is actually to give CIC more funds, so to speak. We need more of its presence in the Kenyan society. Because like I said, this is a question that goes beyond the law. It's a question of the society, right? We need NCIC to be more present in the society, creating these dialogues between the citizenry and its leaders, so to speak. So that at the end of the day, we are going to have leaders that are in sync with their citizenry. Because you see, these very leaders also come from the society. Before they go to the offices, they come from the society.
Thank you so much, Mr. Samuel. I'm seeing a lot of questions and opinions from our viewers on our social media platforms. Keep them coming. I'll be sampling them in a few. Moving on, in the digital economy, one wrong click can cost a fortune. Cybersecurity experts say government finance, young Kenyans and businesses are the new targets for hackers, with a huge financial loss of over 30 billion, with the latest attacks being on the key government systems like the e-Citizen. Cybersecurity experts say government finance, young Kenyans and businesses are the new targets for hackers, with a huge financial loss of over 30 billion, with the latest attacks being on the key government systems like the e-Citizen, leading to the signing of laws like the Data Protection Act and Cyber Misuse Act in October 2025. Joan Gumbi reports on the growing threat and what can we do to stay safe online. Take a listen.
For 23-year-old Masi Naliaka, a university student and online vendor, business was booming until one morning her shop's Instagram page disappeared. According to the Directorate of Criminal Investigations, cybercrime cases in Kenya rose by over 30% this year, with most victims under the age of 30.
I believe I've been a victim of hacking once or twice. I've had a ransomware hold some of my assets somewhere on the internet at ransom, and I had to pay some money to get them. So it happens, and I think the biggest problem is the psychological turmoil that you face, especially when that happens to you. The risk that, this is not something that happens in the movies, but actually happens in real life. as well as now, of course, there's not a lot in terms of money that you can lose, because as an individual there's not too much that like ransomwares or stuff like that can hold against you. But for corporations, I think the impact is there, it's real. I think it happened to Naivas a while ago, and they lost a lot of their client data. And even eCitizen has been hacked several times, and they've witnessed it. So it's something that happens. And the effects are just like I say, they're psychological and as well as monetary, and even public perception too. So yeah.
Have I been scammed? Yes. Wow. I remember my WhatsApp chat was like, somebody entered my WhatsApp chat and my friends were like, Anto, mbona unatisha dom kwa message? Niko like, what do you mean? Sijafanya it. Since that's when I realized I was being scammed. My WhatsApp was being scammed by, whoever it was, hakunipata. But
Experts warn that cybersecurity isn't just about firewalls, it's about awareness. Authorities say collaboration between government, schools, and tech companies is vital to protect Kenya's growing digital generation. Joan Gumbi, reporting for the Global Lens, Nairobi.
Indeed, cybersecurity is everyone's business. Thank you, Joanne, for that insightful report. Now we have a project coordinator for Internews Kenya Safe Space, Mr. Abraham Marita, joining us to give us more insights on this topic. Welcome and thank you for making time. Just to start us off, why are young Kenyans and small businesses being targeted the most?
Most forms of online scamming are through phishing, either through SMS or emails. And basically, this means that individuals are targeted to collect their personal information that would be used to conduct financial fraud. Now it has also emerged that there's something called V-phishing, which is basically used of voice. People with familiar voices like that of your relative, or impersonating a known big company, for example, the ones that do the financial transactions and all these things, would call individuals to try and collect personal information that they can use. So this becomes a big issue. There's also the issue of identity theft, where, for example, without proper hygiene practices, individuals will leave their devices unprotected, and through simple ways like hacking, people can collect such information and create identities that can be used to collect funding or transactions. A lot of these are being used or done in Kenya through, for example, hacking of social media accounts of individuals. And you'll see things like fundraising or such alike, or send me some money urgently through this number, or such things that will take place and affect many people.
What online scams trend have you noticed growing faster recently?
A lot is mostly poor usage of passwords. A lot of people use their IDs, their names, their date of birth as passwords, and it means these are the most easiest things that sometimes don't even require a system to be able to hack that particular account. But if, for example, someone is using like systems that are used to hack, it is easy. It will be a few seconds for such an account to be, to be exposed, and meaning that now all the information that is in that platform will be accessed. People access devices sometimes through public Wi-Fi's. And because of that, it also puts some kind of exposure to attacks, because it means that public Wi-Fi's do not have proper security that can protect you.
Very informative. Thank you, Mr. Abraham. When we return, from displacement to drought, how resilience and compassion keep hope alive in Kenya's hardest hit regions. The Global Lens continues after this short commercial break. Don't go too far. Welcome back. Into another story. As humanitarian crisis persists across the Horn of Africa, drought and displacement continue to affect millions, with the number of refugees, especially from South Sudan, increasing rapidly in Kenya. But amid loss and uncertainty, there are stories of resilience, compassion, and hope. Juliet Kamau brings us this report.
14 years after independence, South Sudan remains suspended between promise and paralysis. What began as a celebration of self-rule has hardened into a prolonged wait for stability. As international focus drifts elsewhere, the country's unresolved political tension and humanitarian crisis continue to spill across borders, placing growing strain on neighbors like Kenya, Uganda, and Ethiopia. Displacement is accelerating. Millions of South Sudanese now live outside their homeland, and a new wave of refugees continue to arrive each year. Yet the humanitarian response is weakening. Aid agencies warn that funding shortlists have left camps outstretched, forcing families to survive on reduced food ration and limited services. Efforts to revive peace have fluttered. Regional diplomacy, including talks hosted in Nairobi, has stalled amid mistrust and political deadlock.
So some of the challenges faced by the refugees in Kenya, one of them is inadequate health care. So as you can see, like in places like Kakuma refugee camp, most people, the place is highly populated and the healthcare facilities are inadequate. They don't have a lot of hospitals, they're limited. Maybe they have almost 3 or 4 hospitals, which makes it very hard for their lives. Then the second part is there's inadequate food supply. So this year, we saw that the World Food Program managed to reduce the food supply from about 50% to around 40%. So this has been one of the biggest challenges for all the refugees. So another one is, let's say, limited access to education. The place is highly populated, but there are few schools.
With election postponed once again to 2026, key milestone, a permanent constitution, and unified security forces remain out of reach. For host countries, the crisis has shifted from temporary emergencies to long-term reality. Kenya and its neighbors are managing not just displaced population, but consequences of a peace process that failed to deliver closure. And for millions of South Sudanese, the question endures: how long can a nation remain independent in name while its popular remains unable to return home? Juliet Kamau, reporting for the Global Lens TV, Nairobi. In Kenya, South Sudanese refugees continue to arrive in growing numbers, fleeing drought and conflict. But amid the hardship, communities and aid groups are stepping in to help families rebuild and find hope. I'm Juliet Kamau, reporting for the Global Lens TV.
Truly inspiring. Thank you, Juliet, for that moving report. Now from that insightful story, I'm joined by the High Court of Kenya advocate and a humanitarian crisis analyst, Mr. George Musee, to explore this topic more. What are the broader regional implications of South Sudanese refugees moving into Kenya?
Okay, I'll take you a little bit back. What is the difference between being a refugee and being a migrant? I would say this. All refugees are migrants, but not all migrants are refugees. Are we together? The distinction is the reason as to why you are moving from point A to point B, why you are crossing the border. For refugees, it's not of their own choice. They are being forced by threats, real or perceived threats of either violence, be they political, religious, or otherwise. But they are also climate-induced refugees. When a mountain, a volcano erupts, what happens? People run away. If there are floodings, people run away, okay? But economic migrant is because of the socioeconomic factors. You are poor in your country, you don't have a means, you don't have a job, so you say, I must look for better ways, and therefore you try to move across, okay? Mixed migration term now speaks to all this, whether it is a refugee, whether it's forced, whether it is economic, whether it is a regular or irregular, because regular migration is where I say, I want to go to Tanzania, then I pick my passport, go through the border. But somebody says, I want to go to South Africa, but I'll go through Tanzania, through Panya route, and so forth. Okay, and therein also you'll find the concept of human trafficking, human smuggling, and so forth. So, what economic migration does, it distorts the receiving state economy. Let me give an example of Kenya here. If you go to Gikomba today, there are so many Tanzanians doing business. Okay. If also you go to South Sudan, there are many Kenyans there, and I can bet a lot of them probably don't even have the right papers. You see the irony of life. Some people are running from South Sudan to come to Kenya for safety. Kenyan business people from Kiambu here are going to South Sudan to sell stuff. So that is the distinction. But migration now, whether it is mixed, whether it is irregular or regular, if you see, there is something called the Compact for Orderly and Safe Migration that was signed in Marrakesh, I think in 2018, speaks and encourages countries to make people that are wishing to move from country A to country B to move easily without a lot of problems. See, our own citizens now are in Russia fighting, isn't it? They're being killed. What do you call them? The economic migrant who end up, there are also Kenyans that ended up in Myanmar. That's scam. So those are the challenges, okay? Yeah.
How are communities, maybe like in West Pokot, coping with the arrival of South Sudanese refugees?
There's what we call the push and pull factor of migration. The pull factor is a country that is doing better. If you ask an ordinary Kenyan, they want to go to the United States, they want to go to Canada, they want to go to Australia. Why? The allure of a better life over there. That's called pull factor. But if you look at, say, Ethiopia, because it's one of the countries with the greatest number of migrants, the issues are inside Ethiopia. Issues of governance, violation of human rights, harsh economic times, pushes them to try to move away at all means. That is called the push factor. Every country has their immigration laws, which are fast for their own interest. Okay? But the enforcement varies depending on the government agenda and policy. I am one person who believes that migration is good both ways. The receiving country benefits a lot. The sending country also benefit a lot from remittances. If you look at Kenya, Kenya has been very easy on foreigners staying here because we are the big brother. People come here and we are also moving. So I don't find it problematic. The only thing we need is to take records, because Burundi is also East Africa. The only thing we need is to get their data. We know who is here, what is their history. But your question as to whether it is out of benevolence of the country or it is interest, I think it's both.
Thank you so much for your time, Mr. Musei, and for analyzing this topic. To our final story, the war in Sudan continues to intensify, with rival military factions locked in a deadly power struggle that has devastated the country and triggered a major humanitarian crisis. Millions have been displaced, essential services have collapsed, and the violence is now placing growing pressure on neighboring countries, including Kenya. As refugees cross borders and regional stability is tested, leaders in the Horn of Africa are increasingly concerned about the conflict's wider security and economic impact. Our correspondent Oliver Mushemi has the details.
War in Sudan has now entered its third year, with rival military factions and the Sudanese Armed Forces, the paramilitary Rapid Support Forces, locked in a deadly struggle that shows no sign of ending. What began in 2023 of April has now snowballed into one of the largest humanitarian crises in the world. According to the United Nations, more than 12 million people have been forced out of their homes. Of these, over 8 million remain displaced inside Sudan, while more than 3 million fled across borders in neighboring countries. The impact of civilians has been devastating. Hospitals and health services have collapsed, disease outbreaks have spread, and millions have faced acute food insecurity. The World Health Organization reports hundreds of attacks on health facilities and ongoing violence that has killed tens of thousands, with actual figures believed to be much higher.
What is your name?
My name is Miriam Ibrahim.
What made you leave Sudan?
I left Sudan because of war. The war that has been on for so long so far has caused a lot of insecurities, a lot of fear in the communities, making life generally hard in a way that there is just no peace. There is safety is not guaranteed because there's a lot of killings all over, and then there is a lot of starvation. You can't even afford healthcare because of how disorganized the area is, and it's just fear and all that, you see.
Here in the Horn of Africa, the effects are spilling across borders. Kenya also hosts 10,000 of the refugees from South Sudan, and neighboring crises have seen a steady flow of Sudanese refugees, placing increasing strain on local services and communities. Humanitarian agencies warn that without significant increases in funding and support, the region could face deeper instability and greater pressure on scarce resources.
My name is Dinga Kech. I come from South Sudan. The conflict in Sudan has pushed many people out of the country. Like it has affected many people on the trade. Also, the movement of people across the borderline. Many people have come to South Sudan for humanitarian assistance and also to come to seek for good health care due to the conflict in Sudan.
With fighting still raging and peace talking stalled, analysts say the crisis shows no immediate end, leaving millions in desperate need and neighboring countries like Kenya bracing for further impact. Oliver Moshemi reporting for Global Lens TV, Nairobi.
A very important point indeed. Oliver Moshemi, thank you for that insight. To our viewers, keep engaging with us through our social media platforms below your screen and send your views and questions as well. Now on that note, I welcome my guest, Mr. Wilfred Muliro, an international relations analyst. Mr. Wilfred, thank you for making time.
You know, it's good you're saying we are mediators, yes, but we are not supporters of the other activities. Yes. Okay, so I think, Sudan is of great concern now. Remember that Sudan original was one of the largest in Africa, and in diplomacy we say that the larger the state, the more the regional and global interests. So now even with the split, the South and Sudan again are still very large, and they still have dynamics of community integration. We can talk of Sudan as one of the cases of divided communities. Yeah. So you already have the history. You know, we know the history of the civilian coup, not purely military, but it was an uprising by civilians. And then the long-serving leader Al-Bashir was removed. Then, you know, Sudan, we talk of 3 coups within a coup. So then the civilian government comes in, Hamdok, then again the military people take over, and within the military again is where we are. That now we have 2 groups, the RSF and the SAF, Sudan Armed Forces and Rapid Support Forces. So that's where we are now in terms of a brief history of the Sudan. But Kenya is so much concerned because a large state like Sudan, like Ethiopia, those are anchor states. So if they collapse, the danger of refugee and the danger of transnational organized crime is heavier than if it's a small state.
From online polarization to the fight for peace, the Global Lens continues to explore stories that define our world and the people reshaping it. A big thank you to our correspondents and reporters Pauline Ochieng, John Gumbi, Juliet Kamau, and Oliver Moshemi for their insightful reporting, and to all our newsmakers for their time. Join the conversation online using the hashtag Global Lens now, and follow us on all our social media platforms. Thank you so much for tuning in for the past 25 minutes and for all your engagements through our socials. I'm Dama Muthui in Nairobi. Goodbye for now and keep your lens global.
Come on, boy.
Even the dogs know. You don't send a youth to do a Hilux job.
Toyota.